Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News Update. It's a moment where a lot of information is converging at once, and that's why I wanted to put together a clear and focused summary for those of you who follow developments closely but don't always have time to sit through long live streams. Earlier today, we completed a detailed live session that included multiple in-depth articles, broader global context, and a discussion about how different developments connect across currencies, geopolitics, and policy decisions. For those who prefer concise analysis rather than extended discussion, this update is meant to bring together the most relevant points in one place in a way that's easy to follow and grounded in facts rather than hype. One of the key themes running through today's coverage was movement in global currency markets. The US dollar has been facing consistent pressure, posting weekly declines as investors react to geopolitical uncertainty and shifting expectations around interest rates. At the same time, other major currencies such as the Japanese yen and the euro have shown relative strength. This kind of divergence isn't unusual during periods of heightened uncertainty, but it does highlight how sensitive currency markets are to global events, policy signals, and capital flows. These fluctuations are not isolated. They reflect broader dynamics playing out across multiple economies at once. Trade policy also continues to play a significant role in shaping market sentiment. Recent statements regarding potential tariffs, including higher duties on specific industrial sectors, have added another layer of uncertainty for investors. Trade tensions tend to influence currencies indirectly by affecting growth forecasts, inflation expectations, and cross-border investment. Whether people agree or disagree with particular policy approaches, it's important to recognize that markets react to policy signals first, often well before outcomes are fully known. Turning specifically to Iraq, political and institutional developments remain a central focus. The Supreme Judicial Council has reiterated the importance of adhering to constitutional timelines for appointing key leadership positions, including the President and Prime Minister. From a governance perspective, this emphasis on constitutional order matters because it reinforces institutional stability. Stable institutions are a prerequisite for economic reform, banking modernization, and long-term investor confidence. While political processes can appear slow or repetitive from the outside, they are part of the framework that supports broader economic changes. At the same time, the Iraqi government continues to move forward with administrative and technological reforms. One notable development is the launch of automation initiatives related to sales and property transfer transactions. These efforts are part of a wider push toward digitization, transparency, and efficiency in public administration. Digitized systems reduce bottlenecks, limit opportunities for corruption, and improve record keeping. In many countries, similar reforms have laid the groundwork for broader financial modernization, including improved banking services and better integration with international systems. Another important area is Iraq's ongoing shift toward digital infrastructure within its financial sector. Discussions around digital currencies, payment systems, and blockchain-based record-keeping are not unique to Iraq. They reflect a global trend. Central banks worldwide are exploring digital frameworks to improve settlement efficiency and oversight. In Iraq's case, these initiatives are tied to long-term modernization goals rather than short-term speculation, and they should be viewed in that broader institutional context. On the international front, developments involving energy assets continue to attract attention. Reports that Russian firms are adjusting their overseas holdings, including interests connected to Iraqi oil fields, are part of a larger pattern that began months ago. These changes are driven by geopolitical pressures, sanctions, and strategic realignments rather than sudden shifts. Iraq's energy sector remains a cornerstone of its economy, and changes in ownership structures or partnerships can have downstream effects on trade balances and fiscal planning. Trade data also offers insight into Iraq's economic positioning. Recent figures show substantial trade volumes between Iraq and India, underscoring the diversification of Iraq's trade relationships. Expanding trade partnerships beyond a narrow set of counterparts can help stabilize revenue streams and reduce vulnerability to regional disruptions. These trade relationships are built over time and reflect gradual integration rather than abrupt transformation. Precious metals markets provide another lens into investor sentiment. Gold prices have faced downward pressure amid expectations of tighter monetary policy and leadership changes at major central banks. Gold often reacts to interest rate expectations because higher rates increase the opportunity cost of holding non-yielding assets. Shifts in central bank leadership and policy tone can therefore influence gold, currencies, and broader financial markets simultaneously. Interest rates remain a major point of discussion globally. Higher rates have affected borrowing costs, housing affordability, and consumer spending in many economies. While rate decisions are ultimately driven by inflation and economic data, there is growing attention on how long restrictive policies can be maintained without slowing growth. Market participants closely monitor central bank communications for clues about future adjustments, and these expectations are often reflected in currency and bond markets well before official decisions are made. From an analytical standpoint, it's important to acknowledge that financial markets are deeply influenced by human behavior. Fear and optimism both play measurable roles in price movements. Indicators tracking market sentiment exist precisely because emotional responses can amplify trends in either direction. Understanding this behavioral component helps explain why markets sometimes move sharply on news that appears incremental on the surface. Within the Iraqi context, analysts often point to legislative progress as a signal of readiness for broader economic steps. Observers note that many key laws and reforms are interconnected, including budget frameworks, banking regulations, and energy agreements. When implementation appears delayed, it's often because policymakers are sequencing reforms rather than abandoning them. Coordination matters, especially when changes have implications across fiscal, monetary, and legal systems. Budget documents also attract attention because they provide insight into assumptions used by policymakers. Exchange rate figures included in official documents typically reflect existing frameworks rather than future projections. It's important to distinguish between accounting references and policy decisions. Historical examples from other countries show that governments often maintain conservative assumptions in public documents until changes are formally enacted. Iraq's recent improvements in global governance indicators are another noteworthy development. Gains in government effectiveness and institutional performance suggest progress in administrative capacity. While no ranking system is perfect, upward trends in these indicators generally align with increased confidence from international partners and financial institutions. Non-oil revenue growth projections also point to gradual diversification. While hydrocarbons remain dominant, increasing non-oil revenues help strengthen fiscal resilience. These gains are usually incremental and depend on tax administration, customs enforcement, and economic activity rather than sudden windfalls. Reports from individuals familiar with on-the-ground conditions in Iraq frequently emphasize that periods of confusion or heightened activity often precede major administrative or financial changes. While such observations should always be treated cautiously, they do align with historical patterns seen in other markets, where transitions involve overlapping signals and temporary uncertainty. Geopolitical dynamics in the region continue to influence expectations as well. Regional tensions, diplomatic positioning, and international pressure all shape the environment in which Iraq operates. External relationships, particularly with major global powers, can affect financial timelines indirectly through policy coordination and compliance requirements. Another important clarification often raised by analysts is the independence of central banks. In Iraq, as in many countries, the central bank operates separately from day-to-day political leadership. This separation is designed to protect monetary policy from short-term political pressures. Statements from Iraqi leadership have repeatedly emphasized that monetary decisions fall within the central bank's mandate reinforcing this institutional boundary. Ultimately, the key takeaway from all of this is perspective. Economic and financial change rarely happens in a single moment. It unfolds through a series of policy steps, institutional adjustments, and market reactions. While it's natural to look for clear milestones, responsible analysis focuses on confirmed developments rather than assumptions or promises. For viewers following Iraqi financial news, the most productive approach is to stay informed, understand the broader context, and avoid emotional decision-making based on incomplete information. Markets reward patience and preparation far more consistently than speculation. At Iraqi Dinar News Update, the goal remains to provide clear, fact-based analysis that helps you understand what is happening, why it matters, and how different pieces fit together over time.